Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where we pit your favorite fictional characters against each other and shit all over everything you love about them in the name of competition. Just like how I treat this intro. Sorry, everyone. This week, Jon Snow versus Katniss Everdeen.
Wow.
Great.
We love you, Liz.
Ready, guys? Your scenario?
No, I'm positive that I'm not.
Magnetic attraction travel. Are you lonely? Do you need a break from the daily grind? Are you looking for love?
Let the record show I have buried my face in my hands.
Oh my god.
Do you need to start over, Liz? Do you got it?
No.
No, just keep going.
Are you an incredibly fit 20-something with excellent leadership and combat aptitude? Well, look no further than magnetic attraction travel. I'm Max Eisenhart, and I am your salvation. Excuse me. My travel agency specializes in pairing you up with someone that shares your dreams and talents on an amazing tropical adventure. If this sounds like the vacation you need, please find an isolated area surrounded by any luggage you might need, look into the sky, and shout, "Doom!" Your tropical vacation is literally one word away. So, here's your situation. Jon Snow, missing Ygritte, and Katniss, looking for anyone besides pita bread and that other guy, answer the call.
Seriously.
Packing up their gear, they are suddenly transported to the Savage Land. But this isn't an average tropical bachelorette, though. This is old Magneto down on his luck. He wants to do awesome experiments and create cool soldiers to take over various locales, but he can't find anyone to experiment on. Feeling desperate, Magneto enlisted the help of his colleague, Victor Von Doom! And had him broadcast the previous message across every world Doom's science-y shit could reach, for better or worse. Magneto's goal, you might wonder? A fight to the death between each couple so he can groom each subsequent winner to be one of his generals. Well, Jon and Katniss have been paired up, but both want to nope the fuck out of here. How do they do it? Knowing that they will have to survive the tropical biome of the Savage Land and the Antarctic wasteland outside of it, what techniques will your combatant use to traverse the environments? Will your combatant participate in open combat or skulk in the shadows? Will your combatant even bother killing the other person? What about how they deal with the various species and enemies in the Savage Land? I have no idea why the Savage Land would be such a bad place to visit. Sounds kind of fun. That's why I, Liz Logan, am your judge today. Representing Jon Snow are Miles Schneiderman.
You know nothing, Dan and Kit Mulcairn.
And Colin Mulcairn.
You know, if the defeat is too much to take for you guys tonight, you can always take the black.
Representing Katniss Everdeen are Dan and Kit Mulcairn.
Are you fighting Everdeen? Well, winter is coming, you're looking rather green.
You think you can outlast this woman and her bow, but you'll find you know nothing, Jon Snow.
Hey, I got a song for you guys.
I'm leaving now.
I got a song. You want to hear it? Katniss sucks.
That's it? I
yeah.
wouldn't call that a song.
It's more of a ditty.
To determine which side goes first, the combatants had to win some horrible icebreaker activity on the vacation's introductory river cruise. Despite being wasted in order to make it through the structured activity, Katniss managed to pull through. Katniss, you have the floor.
I just want everyone to know that I have to be wasted to get through this activity, and I'm starting now.
Start making D&D references, man.
Yeah, I know. I need a drink.
Sorry, Snow, but Katniss won the match the moment this became a match of survival. In Katniss's country of Panem, food distribution is tightly regulated by the government, and those without money or influence have the very real possibility of starving to death. After her mother could no longer care for their family, it fell on Katniss to keep them all alive. And she did so by maxing out her archery, hunting, foraging, and survival skills. Her knowledge of trapping and wildlife also falls under her hunting purview. Surviving in a dinosaur-infested jungle is a cakewalk after having survived the deadly environments created by Panem's sick and twisted government. The Hunger Games arena attacks the tributes with ridiculous shit like various mutant animals, directed forest fires, and necrotic gas, to name a few. She avoided horrors like these time and time again, all while making use of her myriad survival skills. Katniss is also well educated on which plants are edible, medicinal, and poisonous. She's skilled with a knife, both in combat and skinning her hunted prey, the latter of which will come in super handy when it's time to make herself a warm coat in order to brave the harsh cold of Antarctica. How fucking badass is that image, though? Katniss wearing a woolly mammoth coat. Someone draw that. She's also
Listeners?
Anyway, she's also a fast runner with great reflexes, evidenced by the many times she's had to evade various types of mutant animals and the other well-trained people fighting for their lives. But as we all know, archery is where Katniss shines brightest. Shines like the fucking sun. Her high-tech bow paired with her incendiary and explosive arrows give her a ridiculous edge over Snow. But even if she didn't have her specialty arrows, normal arrows still bring death to all she fires upon. The bows she uses must have a crazy high draw weight, apparent when she shot an arrow high enough to hit the Hunger Games arena ceiling, which looks to me to be at least half a mile high. If she has the power to shoot that far up, shooting an arrow into dinosaurs, or Jon Snow, will be among the easiest things she does in the Savage Lands. Her aim is so on point that if Snow wears anything short of the Iron Man power suit, she'll be able to land an arrow through the eye opening. Actually, I'm not convinced she couldn't shoot through Iron Man's armor anyway. Maybe if it was made of vibranium? She is so good at shooting that she was able to shoot 2 small but fast-moving planes out of the sky with 1 arrow. Do you realize how good you have to be at judging not only distance, but speed in order to compensate and accurately shoot down a fucking plane? A fucking plane! Surviving the Savage Lands will be just another shitty Monday to her. And as for Jon Snow,
plane sounds fun.
Why would you shoot down that? Yeah, that sounds lovely.
There were snakes on it.
It's not
presumably.
Valentine's Day yet. Okay, continue.
Okay.
Sorry, Kit.
she's going to see Jon Snow coming a mile away from her lofty perch in a tree and spare not more than a single arrow on that bastard.
Jonathan Yellow Snow was the second son of Lord Eddard Stark, and
Wow, just going with the child's play at the very beginning.
his
aren't you?
nickname, not mine.
Uh-huh.
While Jon's upbringing certainly wasn't soft, it was the upbringing of a noble. His father may have made sure to train him in swordsmanship as much as was proper, but his time was also spent learning about the history of Westeros, learning which fork to use at fancy dinner parties, and trying to house train a bunch of direwolves. In the end, despite Catelyn Stark's numerous objections, Snow was part of the Stark household. He was a noble, or at least led a noble lifestyle. The lives of him and his family never directly depended on him developing his combat or survival skills. In contrast, Katniss lived in the poorest neighborhood in the poorest district in the totalitarian empire of Panem. She developed her skills through pure necessity. If she didn't make herself into the best hunter she could possibly be, she and her family would have starved to death. Consider also the foes that Katniss has beaten in previous games. Jon Snow may have been training with the sword from a young age, but Katniss has beaten much more experienced foes before. Her rivals from Districts 1 and 2 in the 74th Hunger Games were the Careers, so called because they had been training for the games since they were very young children. No etiquette lessons for these guys either. They knew that they had to become perfect killing machines to fight on behalf of their respective districts, but even almost 2 decades of intensive training couldn't protect them from Katniss. Let's talk about what Jon brings to this fight. Jon, like all members of the Night's Watch, typically wears either chainmail or leather armor, as well as a heavy black cloak. All of this is impressive and appropriate for traveling north of the Wall, but in a sweltering jungle environment like the Savage Land, it'll immediately be reduced to dead weight, slowing him down immensely. And no amount of armor is going to protect you from a Tyrannosaurus looking to make a snack out of you. Jon's signature weapon is, of course, the sword Longclaw. A very impressive weapon made of Valyrian steel. This is Jon's pride and joy, and is really only effective within about 4 feet. Contrast that with Katniss's Mockingjay bow, a futuristic bow constructed of cutting-edge polymers designed to respond to her voice. The bow that Kit mentioned before, the one that fired an arrow into the ceiling of the arena during the Quarter Quell, was inferior to the Mockingjay bow. Any bow able to fire an arrow that far is going to be able to punch through Jon Snow's armor easily if it comes to it. Even if these two never come to blows directly, if I had to fight a T-Rex and had the choice between a +1 bastard sword and a bow that basically fires missiles, I know which one I'd go for.
Drink.
When the Night's Watch go into the wilderness beyond the Wall, they go decked out and prepared, with horses, rations, weapons, and rarely in groups smaller than 4 or 5. Katniss's experiences, first as a hunter in District 12 and later in the Hunger Games themselves, have been, by and large, by herself. She's often associated with PETA and later with the Rebellion, but a huge portion of her time in the arena is spent solo. Jon Snow is almost never by himself when he travels, whether it's with his fellow Night's Watchmen, with Ygritte, or even with Ghost. He's used to having someone else watch his back. But Jon and Katniss are all alone, a situation which favors Katniss, but is a serious handicap for Jon. For better or worse, Jon Snow is his father's son. Of all the Stark children, Snow is stated to be the most like Ned, both in terms of appearance and his personality. And what do we know of Eddard Stark? He's brave, honest, forthright, and honorable to a fault, traits which led him straight to the headsman's block. Jon was brought up with a rigid, uncompromising worldview which prizes honor and honesty above all else. Jon is shown to be baffled by even the most rudimentary forms of subterfuge and deception, and is really only comfortable in the combat arena when things are simple, obvious, and direct.
Wrap it up, Dan.
I'm on my I'm good.
Okay.
Now let's consider Katniss, who quickly and effortlessly learned what was needed to manipulate both the sponsors of the Hunger Games and the vast audiences watching the games from across the Empire. She easily became the favorite tribute of all because she so naturally exploited everyone's emotions. Should she and Jon Snow ever go against each other directly, she'll manipulate Snow immediately and fully, if she doesn't fill him full of arrows first.
Okay. Great opening statements. Jon Snow, take it away.
This is amazing. I feel like I'm about to say the same things as you, Dan and Kit, except you got the name wrong. It's
just
Jon
like Mad
Snow.
Libs, right?
That is making
Yeah, exactly. I'm the last guy who would revel in the advantages conferred upon the privileged at the expense of the poor, but it can't be denied that in the cold, hard world in which both our protagonists and we ourselves reside, wealth and privilege confer a number of advantages that those born to poverty simply don't possess. It's not fair, but it is true. And Jon Snow's primary advantage is the fact that since the day he was old enough to hold a wooden sword, he has been trained by the best. Katniss can certainly hold her own in terms of archery, hunting, and tracking, but Jon has been doing all these things along with sword fighting since childhood under the watchful eyes of masters, and his methods and tactics have been painstakingly honed by years of careful, disciplined practice. We see this when he first arrives at the Wall at the age of 14 and immediately proves himself superior to every other recruit. As a man of the Night's Watch, he spends the next few books becoming even more formidable. He's later seen frequently practicing his fighting technique against multiple opponents and winning. Both these characters possess natural skill, but Katniss can't touch Jon when it comes to a lifetime's worth of rigorous training. And does he ever put that training to good use? In A Game of Thrones, Jon kills the reanimated corpse of one of his fellow Night's Watch brothers. In A Clash of Kings, he traverses the frozen wilderness beyond the Wall alongside the legendary ranger Corran Halfhand, an adventure that sees him scale an icy cliff, kill the wildling scout Orell, and eventually kill the Halfhand himself in single combat. In A Storm of Swords, Jon plays the role of double agent among the wildlings, tricking them into believing he has joined their side before eventually making his escape. Oh, and he climbs the wall, which, is that 700-foot tall, probably magical, immense wonder of the world barrier designed to keep people out. Yeah, he climbs that. Later in the book, he fights off 2 wildling attacks on Castle Black, demonstrating extreme skill with both sword and bow, and assumes leadership of the remaining brothers to repel the enemy's advance for several days, demonstrating both tactical brilliance and the ability to inspire those around him. In A Dance with Dragons, after he's been elected Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, Jon is ruthless in executing a brother who disobeys him, and continues his training despite his position of leadership. Now, why is Katniss so afraid of these people from Districts 1 and 2? Because they're rich, and they've been training their whole lives for this shit. That's why she avoids fighting them at all costs. Avoids fighting them, mind you, because she knows that if she ever ends up in a one-on-one conflict with somebody with serious combat training, she will get totally destroyed. That's why she hides and waits for most of the other tributes to kill each other in these competitions, because she can't beat them in a straight fight. However, in these circumstances, there aren't 20+ other teenagers standing between Jon Snow and Katniss. It's just the 2 of them alone, and he'll be going straight for her, and there'll be no one to stand in his way. Colin?
Thank you.
You know something, Colin Mulcairn.
I do.
You know many things.
Well, you might think that Katniss has an edge in the jungle environment due to the amount of time that Jon has spent in the north, but let's examine that assumption for a second. Remember that Jon lived his first 14 years at Winterfell, not north of the Wall, and for 10 of those it was summer. Jon learned to hunt, fish, and track in a temperate forest environment just like Katniss did, except Jon Snow's forest was colder and harsher and had dire wolves and wildlings and shit running around in it. So who had the harsher environment? Who probably needed to be given better training to survive, and who probably has been shaped by the harshness of their environment into a better hunter? Just saying. And once this match takes the characters outside of the protection of the Beyonders' alien technology and into the freezing environs of Antarctica, Katniss doesn't stand a chance against Jon's familiarity with the cold. Jon basically spends a whole book of the series north of the Wall in an area that's totally regarded as inhospitable by the majority of Westeros. It's basically Antarctica, but also with zombies.
Ice zombies.
Ice zombies, yes, even worse. And in terms of skills, granted, Katniss is really good with a bow, obviously, but that's basically all she can do. When Haymitch asks Katniss how good of a trapper she is, she reluctantly offers, "I know a few basic snares." And when the topic of melee combat is brought up, Katniss says that Peeta might have a chance in melee combat, but when it comes to herself, she says, "If I get jumped, I'm dead." And at some point in this match, you had better bet that the master tracker and hunter, that is Jon Snow, will make it into melee range with Katniss. She's got to sleep sometime, and this time, there's no one with her to watch her back. We see that Katniss is prone to freezing up in moments of decisions, and she's reluctant when it comes to killing people. Like that bit where the cornucopia opens at the beginning of the first Hunger Games, and she's like, "Okay, I'm going to go for the bow. No, I'm not going to go for the bow. No, I'm going to go for the... No, I'm thinking I'm going to... No, I'm the bow. No, I'm going to... and then like all this stuff's taken. She's like, "I'm going to run." And then somebody starts throwing knives at her, and she has to run away. So yeah.
Your hesitation will be your death.
And if you look at the book, she's not actually famous in... Miles? If you're trying to inspire me, your teammate, you want to avoid the
sorry.
triumphant proclamation.
Anti-Doom.
For now, anti-Doom. All right, cool. So Katniss is not famous in her world for being a badass action hero. She's famous because she chose to take politically significant actions at key points in her life when the world was watching. She volunteered to take her sister's place as tribute. She happened to get her hands on a pin that had an old symbol of rebellion on it. She refused to kill Peeta and instead elected to eat poison berries instead of doing what the Capitol wanted. But the thing about all of these actions is that Katniss did all of these for purely selfish and short-term reasons, not understanding the larger political implications of what she was doing until long after she became a symbol and a folk hero, much to her own bewilderment. She only survives the Hunger Games because of the gifts that are sent to her by her sponsors and her adoring fans. When she's out in the Savage Lands, there isn't anyone that she can appeal to for help. Other tributes, such as Rue and Peeta, also end up helping her multiple times throughout the games, and in the Savage Lands, again, there's going to be no one to have her back. By the time that A Dance with Dragons rolls around, Jon has learned to rely solely on himself, at one point actually sending his friends away to other castles to keep them safe. Jon survives because of his intelligence, his tactics, and his skills. Katniss survives because people just keep sending her silver parachutes with bread inside of them. And in the Savage Lands, the only thing that will be falling down from the sky onto Katniss are velociraptors.
Okay.
That's not where they come from, Colin.
Velociraptors don't come from the sky?
Yeah.
What comics have you been reading?
Rebuttals, begin.
Well, you mentioned that Katniss can't even touch Jon. She will touch Jon with an arrow through the eye.
Oh man, that's strong.
From dozens of yards away. Like,
damn, that's super strong. That's just wow. I don't know how I can win now.
Well,
it's just the tip of their rebuttal.
I mean, that's all you need, isn't it? That we basically already stated in our opener, her level of accuracy, her skill. She shot down a fucking plane.
Yeah.
Like, how can Jon even fucking pair to that?
Anytime Jon went out into the woods, as you guys were talking about, he would be accompanied by, usually his guards and his brothers, bare minimum. Katniss was frequently, if not always, by herself. And are you seriously comparing the woods around Winterfell to the environment of the Hunger Games?
Seriously.
Where
literally
anything can be directed to kill you at a moment's notice? That's not even a comparison.
Seriously, future Appalachia is terrifying, but in terms of Katniss always being alone, what are you talking about? She's always with other people. She's with Rue, she's with Peeta, she's with somebody all the damn time.
As is Jon. Like, seriously, can you name a moment in the book when he's not with someone else and he's actually, like, proving himself reasonably competent and not just traveling from, like, point A to point B?
I mean, he's always with people, but that he doesn't rely on people. That's the difference.
Well, I mean, there's
Katniss relies on everyone around her to save her.
Well, when there's he does kill Whites by himself, and then also, I mean, in the fight where he's defending Castle Black from the Wildling attack, he is not alone, but he is greatly outnumbered. He has other Night's Watchmen with him, but they are like way, way, way outnumbered by the Wildlings attacking, and the odds are severely against them.
Well, Jon Snow himself, I find it interesting that you brought up Qhorin Halfhand, because Jon Snow himself admitted that if his fight with Qhorin had been a straight match and not one that was just put on for a show for the Wildlings, Qhorin would have smashed him like a bug. He
thinks that. I'm not sure if that's true.
I'm pretty positive. Frankly. I mean, Mance Rayder handed him his own ass almost literally in Dance with Dragons. Like, that was not even a match.
Oh, man.
Unlike, Katniss, who is so good in a direct fight, as she says, which is why she always avoids everybody and hides all the time from them.
What's wrong with killing him from a distance. It's still killing
Why
him.
would she do that?
Because she has a bow and can do so.
And here's a dangerous dude with a fucking sword walking around. Maybe she knows she's supposed to take him out. You tell me, Liz. Does she know she's supposed to kill him? Because other than that, why would Jon kill her?
She knew that they were both paired up. Well, they both know that they were paired up, but depending on if they ever run into each other, they may never run into each other. I mean, this is this huge area, so.
Yeah.
Katniss, as you pointed out,
she's just gonna like see from like 100 yards away. She's gonna see some dude walking, like taking off his black cloak because it's all sweaty and shit. She's just gonna see him and be like, "Oh man, I should totally put an arrow in that guy's eye right now." That's what's gonna happen.
Even if she doesn't, she is so much better at climbing trees and staying ahead of him than he will be compared to her. Like, that is...
How does climbing trees equate to staying ahead of him? Is she leaping from tree to tree like a lemur?
Well, you guys mentioned him being able to sneak up on her when she's asleep. Mm-hmm. First of all, she tends to sleep in trees, as we've seen in the Hunger Games. So, it's going to be awfully hard for him to track her down. But the second part... Let's say that we go along with your ridiculous argument that Jon Snow would be able to get the drop on Katniss and somehow defeat her. Yeah. I say again, this is a ridiculous statement, but let's assume for a second that it's true. Now, we've seen one instance where Jon has a female combatant at his mercy, but he refuses to kill her because she's a woman. Now, even when keeping her alive proves to be a tremendous burden to him, and threatens to expose him and his fellow Rangers, his honor and his sense of duty will not allow him to treat her the same way that he would a male foe.
And she's cute too, let's be honest about that.
I cannot for a moment believe that he would bring himself to kill Katniss, particularly if she was helpless.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the Ygritte thing, just because it seems like this whole setup has been kind of like a, like Liz said, kind of a bachelorette thing in the Savage Land. We know what happens to Jon's girlfriends who are symbolically associated with fire. Just gonna say, they don't last very long.
That's a really
strong argument? Question mark.
That's a really weird way of. Okay, anyway.
Last statement from.
All right. You also criticize her avoiding the rich folk to stay alive. She's playing the smart game by letting the environment kill her opponents, so she doesn't waste arrows and shit. Like, why bother killing dangerous foes when you can stay away from them? In fact, that's a pretty great survival strategy. Animals do that all the time. Flight is preferable to fight. You fight when you have to.
Okay, since I don't know a lot about Savage Lands, would she be able to actually get across it and get out, or would she just be in a tree the whole time?
No, I strongly believe she
die in a tree.
Given her experience with wilderness and with environments that are specifically designed to kill you, I have no doubt that she would be able to traverse that environment very, very easily. Like, if I had to rank the areas we're talking about, you have like Winterfell and the area beyond the wall at the bottom. And then the Savage Land is more dangerous than that. And way more dangerous than either of those is a Hunger Games arena. She has survived much worse stuff than a couple of dinosaurs.
Yeah, the Savage Lands, does
Savage
Savage
Lands have
necrotic
sending her
gas?
food and medicine. People keep sending her food and medicine to get her through everything she does. Literally everything.
But
every time she gets hurt, every time she gets hungry.
That's enough. You answered my question. We have to start with Jon Snow now.
You mentioned that Jon Snow was like sort of pampered and like, oh, he's learning what good forks to use in the dinner parties.
Oh my God, you're so full of shit.
we see a dinner party in the book, A Game of Thrones, and we see he is outside the dinner party. He doesn't get to go in. He's out in the cold,
get invited to that,
hanging out with the imp. So I think while everybody else is having the fancy dinner parties, he's probably just in the yard doing more training. That's why he's the best swordsman out of all of his brothers and sisters. So
he wasn't doing more training in that scene. He was being all angsty and teenagery. Like, that doesn't prove to me.
But while training,
that doesn't prove to me that he's a better swordsman. That just proves to me that he's having a, quarter life crisis.
Well, in this case, he needs to be a better swordsman than Katniss with her knife. So,
I agree. But, he still has to traverse a good half mile of open ground in order to get to her, while all the while, probably one of the best marksmen in fiction is going to be taking shots at him.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. You know what? You keep coming back to this combat thing, man. Why do you got to be all violent all the time?
You were the one who was just saying he was going to be attacking her.
Yeah, I did not. This is an inherently violent fight. One thing I do want to say is that you mentioned that Jon, you basically said that he was dumb and didn't understand subterfuge and deception. And I would just like to once again remind you that he spends the equivalent of an entire book deceiving the free folk that he is one of them, going along with them so that he can eventually betray them and sell their secrets to his real allegiance, the Night's Watch. Jon Snow looks into the eyes of the king beyond the wall and says, I am with you. I am done with the Night's Watch. I am a member of the Wildlings now. And Mance Rayder believes him.
Is he going to be like looking into the eyes of a dinosaur and convincing
Well,
it?
so if you want to know how this kind of thing is going to be important, let's look at what it actually takes to get through the Savage Land. To get through the Savage Land, look, Dan, Kit, Colin, we've all read Marvel comics. I don't think Liz has read very many Marvel comics.
Yes, I have.
If it didn't
Unless
have Wolverine in it, she probably didn't read it.
Okay, well, it had Wolverine in it. Liz, we all know the Savage Land, all right? You know what you have to do to get through the Savage Land? You're going to have to deal with the people and animals living there eventually. And Jon is a natural leader. He inspires loyalty at basically every turn. The Lord Commander, he picked Jon out as his successor before he even said his vows. All right? Now, Katniss is easily manipulated by people, her friends, her enemies, basically everyone. And as Colin mentioned, what she becomes is less of an actual leader than a symbolic figurehead. People are drawn to her because of what she represents in the specific context of her society, and because her image is carefully crafted to appeal to the masses, not because of her actual leadership skill. Jon has, negotiated with kings, all right? He's going to have a much easier time convincing the people in the Savage Land to let him pass or even help him. And we didn't even mention the fact that even though Jon might not have Ghost with him in this match, it doesn't change the fact that he's a goddamn warg and possesses latent abilities to see through the eyes and control the minds of animals, which is a tremendous advantage.
Especially when those animals are dinosaurs.
Yeah,
I think he makes
exactly. Now,
I don't buy that Jon could do that though, because
he's totally going to be Chris Pratting with a group of velociraptors.
Okay, look, what we're looking at here, just so I'm saying, is a swordsman, lord, commander dude who communes with animals. You know what that means? That means as soon as Jon meets Khazar, that is going to be the most epic bromance ever, man.
I hate to shoot this down because I really do want to read that book now that you've brought it up, but I do have to shoot it down. Bran is a much more natural green seer and warg than Jon Snow is. And it takes Bran the better part of 3 books before he's able to even begin to reliably take control of even the most familiar animals to him.
Oh, I'm not saying he can do it reliably, but I'm just saying the ability is there and it shouldn't be ignored because we are looking at a wild animal situation.
Yeah, but if it's the sort of thing that he can rely on, he's going to have to spend months training it. And I'm pretty convinced that Bran only got that good because he had lost the use of his legs and sort of had to develop those other senses.
That's speculation. Khazar can teach him how to do it, and while he's doing that, Katniss is just going to be mind-controlled by Sauron.
This whole podcast is speculation.
Also,
okay.
Bran is all of his focus and training lets him do something that no other warg has done, which is that he can control humans. So I think that, Bran's a few levels ahead. I think that the controlling animals is a bit more entry level than you are letting on, and that Bran, he's way ahead because he's doing all sorts of crazy stuff. But I think that controlling animals is pretty basic, and if Jon tries working on it a little bit, I think he can figure it out. So,
yeah, again, over the course of maybe a few months, by which point Katniss will have already escaped.
Okay,
no, she's not. She's going to be in the dungeons of the mutates.
I don't want to hear about wargs anymore. Since I'm throwing a wrench in everyone's plans, I have a question to ask Team Jon Snow. Do you think he would seek out Katniss to kill her, or would he just escape? And bringing up Ygritte was a good point. Do you think he would let her live, or kill her, go out of his way to do it?
I think
either one of them
hit it off, and then she would die because that's what happens.
I don't think either one of them would kill each other. But I mean, if he discovers that killing her will get him free and will help him win this thing, then I think he would, because as he has shown when he executes another member of the Night's Watch who is talking bad about him, in order to establish dominance and do it, he has to in order to survive and to do what's right for his people. I think he showed that in the time since Ygritte's death, he has grown and he has become more ruthless. I mean, there was the bit where the maester up there, I forget his name, tells him, kill the boy and become the
Maester
man.
Aemon, yeah.
That's Maester Aemon. And since
kill the boy and let the man be born.
Yeah, exactly. And he has done that now. And so now he is the man. And I think he is stronger now. And if he doesn't think that he's the man. If he does learn that killing Katniss will end this and get him free, I think he will do it.
Judge, do you mind if I make a counterpoint, or do we have to move on?
Yes, you can make a counterpoint, but it has to be very brief.
Okay. I think that the reason Jon Snow kills is because he feels as though it's the right thing to do. If Katniss is standing in his way, he would be killing her in order to survive, which he has shown he is not willing to do if it's not an honorable kill. Now, Katniss, on the other hand, is all about survival. all of her skills are in some way tied to her survival. She's able to manipulate people only when it involves her being able to survive. These two have very different motivations, and their skills are tied into those motivations in very different ways.
Okay. Very good round of rebuttals. It's time for my favorite weather event.
Oh, boy.
Oh boy.
The lightning round!
Oh, no. Listeners, that sound you may have just heard was not thunder, but the sound of my bowels clenching.
Prepare to descend into madness.
I feel like this one's really tame, but I like
Yeah, you've said that.
You always feel that way, and they're always insane.
Okay. Jon Snow and Katniss Everdeen have both survived against tremendous odds. They've led their followers and random people into combat. They've taken on enemies with power far greater than their own. And they both just turned 40. No longer the spry chickens they once were. They both realize, wow, it's time for a career change.
It's already gotten weird. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Liz, I wish you could see my face.
And what better career is there for previous leaders and warriors past their prime than motivational speaking?
Gosh.
Oh, yes. Jon and Katniss are their respective world's best motivational speakers. I have received interdimensional tickets to both speakers, but alas, they take place at the same date and time. Convince me on why I should go to your conference. What is the name of your workshop or conference? What area of motivation do you primarily practice in? And take into consideration your home world. And give me a snippet of your motivational speech. Pull me in. And add in anything else that could convince me why yours is the best. And I like free swag, too. So there's that as well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right on.
So that would mean Jon Snow is first.
So his speech is going to be called "Kill the Boy," and then the subtitle will be "Why All Bastards Need Not Be Dwarfs."
There you go. We were on the same page with this. We were on the exact same page. Go.
Okay, great. And so it's going to be basically about no matter how difficult your upbringing and your childhood was, that you can basically be whatever you want to be in life. And that, it doesn't matter who you were, it matters who you will be, all that kind of stuff. He'll talk about how he discovered, growing up, that eventually what he discovered he wanted most in life was to be an honorable and a good man, which is why he refused the offer from King Stannis to become Lord Stark of Winterfell and all that kind of stuff. And, how he had to pick his path in life, and eventually he went to the Night's Watch because he learned that that was what was right for him, despite the fact that growing up as a bastard, far less was expected of him. So, Miles?
I found my path when I found my direwolf. All of you have direwolves too. They might not be on the outside.
Me? Are they inside me, Jon?
They are inside you. Yes, all your direwolves are in you. You might have ravens there too who demand corn and say real human words. But your direwolves are in you, and what you have to do is fold yourself like Valyrian steel over and over again. Fold yourself until you are strong and until you can overcome all the abuse that you've suffered throughout your childhood. Once you folded that Valyrian steel up and overcome the people that called you those names, the people that called you bastard or freak or whatever it was, then you can finally use that
or
Valyrian
Jon
steel
Yellow
sword.
Snow. The
That's
people
right.
that called you that.
That's right. All those mean people. You can finally use that Valyrian steel sword and finally kill the boy and let the man be bored because the direwolf is in you.
Wow. So what do I get if I go to your conference?
You get a T-shirt with a picture of a wolf on it, a wolf face, and it says "Free your direwolf" on it.
Okay, you're really appealing to the nerd crowd. I like this. All right.
Yeah.
I like. Sure. Wolves
You also get a matching hat and water bottle and tote bag.
And if you want to, you
and
can join
an educational 5 CD-ROM set that has additional videos on it.
Okay. I like that. All right.
That's
Great.
the 5 steps toward killing the boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that might actually get you arrested.
If you sell that.
Yeah.
Not in Westeros, buddy. Not in Westeros. That'll get you a promotion.
Disgustingly corrupt governments and you. How to unintentionally start a revolution and get a cool nickname, too.
So the area of expertise that Katniss is dealing with is, she tells stories about how she fought to overthrow these corrupt governments, but then she takes it down, she narrows the lens, and she says, hey, we all have corrupt governments, you know? There are those evil presidents in our head that say we're not good enough. They're the dictators pounding at the podium of you're not pretty enough. They hand you clothes and they say, wear them. These are the clothes that you deserve because you are inefficient. But I say to you, you stand in front of them, you set those clothes on fire, and you show them who you really are underneath. Disclaimer, please do not actually set yourself on fire. This is intended to be a metaphorical expression of self-revelation.
Unless you've enlisted these badass stylists to do your shit for you.
Yes. You have to use your inner stylist to do that. I think that in terms of swag, I think she would probably give out tote bags that had quivers attached to them. You know,
That's fucking tight.
Yeah.
You'd also get a Mockingjay pin, PTSD, and 2 sets of clothes that burst into harmless fire. You have to have all those things.
Yep.
What was that about the PTSD?
No, don't worry about
that.
Nothing?
Am I eligible?
Just sign on the dotted line.
Yeah.
Am I eligible for archery lessons? Do I get vouchers for
Yes,
archery
you
lessons?
get a Groupon.
Okay.
Liz,
Okay.
the archery lessons were within you all the time, and also can be yours for 3 easy payments of $99.99.
Also, hey, if you come to ours though, direwolf plushie. All I'm saying.
Oh. That throws a...
Well, you get a lizard mutt plushie.
Yeah, now that's neat.
Look at its adorable
That's a
circular
collector's
face
item.
with horrific salt
Yeah.
teeth.
But our direwolf plushie has a mental link with you, and you can see through its eyes.
Oh god, it's horrible glass eyes.
It comes with little
fucking
goggles
death.
that hook up to the direwolf's eyes. They're little warg goggles you can
Well,
put on. as cameras.
our lizard mutt plush moves when you're not looking at it.
That's the best thing ever.
Well, we have
Man.
the hoodie that we gave you that has the direwolf on it. It's also reversible and it's black on the inside. In case you ever have a great shame that you need to repent
Right.
for, you can reverse
there you
the
go.
hoodie and then wear it as a black
In
hoodie.
case you're ever
Yeah, it's
fleeing
part of the therapy.
justice.
Yeah, in case you're
Okay.
ever fleeing justice. Yeah. So-
Or if I want to pretend I'm part of the Night's Watch. I
Indeed.
like that.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll just set it on fire. It's fine.
But do those clothes burst into harmless flame and were made
I mean,
by
they
Lenny
can.
Kravitz?
Oh, it's not harmless.
They were not made by Lenny Kravitz, sir.
Now, do you...
They are made from highly flame pro-tardant mascot
Pro
polyphenolate.
tardant.
Do I get any leather clothes from the Disgustingly Corrupt Governments and You conference? Leather
How about
with
some
fire?
leather armor?
Only so that you can then set them on fire.
Okay, so I have some options to weigh, so I'm gonna go weigh them. Talk amongst yourselves. Enjoy.
And may the odds be ever in our favor. I can't believe I'm the first one to say that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, seriously.
Uh,
I'm just
I
was sitting here in shock.
It was hanging there, and I was like, nope. Someone else is gonna go for that low hanging fruit.
We did the song.
Yeah.
You could practically hear the mic drop after that song.
My song was better.
Okay, seriously, there was nothing in my research about her shooting down fucking planes. Where the hell did that come from?
That was in the Mockingjay movie.
Okay, I didn't look at the movies. I just
Yeah,
looked
it
at
was
the books.
pretty impressive.
Yeah, those movies are actually quite enjoyable. I recommend them.
Yeah, it didn't look that way.
All right.
They weren't spectacular. I thought the set design and the visual element of it was quite good.
Yeah,
I couldn't read the books because they were first person present tense, and I just couldn't.
Oh, were they
I couldn't
really?
do-
Ugh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all about present tense in my fiction, actually. I don't screw all
Are
you.
you are you really?
Yeah,
I
I
can't
think it's-
stand it.
Yeah.
I was thinking a lot about the Hunger Games, like the sort of society you would need for something like the Hunger Games to be acceptable in the way that it is. And the more I thought about it, the more actually impressed I got by the way that the author actually conveys the society that would have to exist in order to support the Hunger Games. And it's actually kind of deceptively complex. And I honestly don't know how much of that she had planned out at the beginning versus she just sort of started off with this crazy idea and then had to design a world to make it fit. But it actually ends up being pretty satisfyingly interesting once you kind of
I
dig down
really
into it.
Yeah, I want to like that series. I want to be able to read it, and I want to be able to watch the movies because it really does seem like it has some themes, about social issues and class consciousness and all the stuff that I obviously am really into. But I don't know, man.
Is it
The
too
present-
YA for you?
It's not too YA. I love YA, but the present tense thing gets to me, and then just the movies. I don't know, man. They never grab me.
They're not the most subtle and nuanced commentary on that sort of thing. But I thought that they were entertaining. Of course, I prefer Avengers Arena, but that's my
right.
my,
yeah, me too.
The books are also darker than the movies. I discovered through research, and I was like, oh man, I can see why they left that out of the movie. Ooh, yeesh.
Yeah. Then again, I'm not exactly in on the Game of Thrones show anymore these days.
Well,
so,
that's understandable.
Yeah. Fuck that
I've
shit.
still never watched a full episode of the Game of Thrones TV show. I just read the books, so.
Watch the first, 3 seasons. Those are good.
Yeah. It just bothered me, during the Dothraki wedding in the first episode, when it's described in the book, it's hundreds of people stretching out as far as the eye can see, and then when you see it in the show, it's 12 people, and
they had serious production limitations on that.
Yeah, and then
that's kind of the problem with portraying a fantasy world as lavishly described as Westeros is,
And so that just always bothered me when I was watching it. It just felt very these are sets, those are costumes. These characters were made older because they didn't want to have child actors. You never see the direwolves around them because they could not animate those,
Well, actually, they do have a lot of child actors, and the child actors they find are great.
Yeah, but they're not as young as the ones in the other, in the actual books. I mean,
so. Everybody got aged up because they didn't want to show people having sex with 13-year-olds. But
also,
but the child actors they found, I can't believe they found the kids they found for that show because they're all really good. There isn't a bad child actor in the bunch.
I would say there's not a bad actor in the bunch in that series.
Aidan Gillen sucks, and
that's good because a bad actor spoils the whole bunch.
Great, thank you.
Get out.
I'm really glad that's in the public consciousness now.
So if the 5 of us were in the Hunger Games, who do you think would win?
I would die first. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, I think Kit would die first.
Oh my god.
I
think Liz would win.
I can barely walk upstairs.
Yeah. I think that's
I can see Liz winning.
I think Liz is kind of the most badass out of all of us.
Yeah, no, she is the most badass.
She's very athletic. She's very she gets those sweet gains in the gym.
Yep.
Dude, she knows how to use guns probably better than all of us.
What are we talking about, guns?
How awesome you are.
Yeah, we were talking about how if the 5 of us were in the Hunger Games, you would be the one who would win.
Oh yeah.
not even any modesty there, or oh no, of course not. No.
Yeah.
You kill us all, right? You've thought about how you do it.
Okay, so
look, in an apocalypse, I'm going to Liz's house.
oh yeah, I'm prepared.
Yeah.
So I guess I didn't realize how super similar these two people were before this fight, and they are very similar, and they're both extremely well trained, without a doubt. Jon's team has me convinced that he can be ruthless, he's willing to do what it takes, and that he's a great warrior and leader. But I don't agree with your points that Katniss can't do well alone. I think she can, and I think she's proven that. And her strategy of waiting things out is pretty valid, and it shows because she won the fucking Hunger Games. But Katniss's argument, with shooting down a plane, a plane's a huge target. I don't think that really applies. So really, this came down to how each person deals with their environments and how treacherous their environments have been. And because of the ability to climb a 700-foot wall and kill ice zombies, I gotta go with Jon Snow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good job, guys.
The curse continues.
Woo!
Good luck, Colin. You're with me next week.
Oh no.
That was super close.
Yeah.
Oh.
I honestly thought that it might go the other way, but I'm glad it went our way. You guys did
good
really
job,
well.
guys.
You guys did awesome.
Excellent. I was seriously sweating bullets during your opening. I was wait, I didn't know any of this. I haven't seen the movies. What is happening? What do you mean she can shoot down planes?
What I was really hoping from Katniss, I was really hoping you guys would bring up the fact that she can use all sorts of things. She's very resourceful. Jon Snow doesn't really pick up something and be like, oh yeah, I know how to use this. Katniss is super resourceful. You could have even turned the whole gift thing. It's oh, I got a gift. I know exactly what to use this for and how to use it efficiently. But yeah.
Well, you guys earned it.
Thank you. Well fought indeed. I'm not going to say you know nothing because clearly you know something. It's just that we know more. And, I mean, what are you going to do?
So are you going to take our offer? Do you guys want to take the black? I mean, you could regain your honor.
Yeah.
No way, man. I'm gonna go across the sea and join up with Daenerys.
Oh, come on, man. Celibacy can't be that bad.
We got lovely fan mail from Matt Garanson. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. thank you so much. He's telling us that he really enjoys the show and he really looks forward to our podcast each week. He also gave us a bunch of cool suggestions, and I will say there's plenty we haven't thought of, but I am super looking forward to Cthulhu versus Galactus.
Well,
because
That's a good one.
I am on Team Cthulhu. I kind of I feel like now I have to apologize to Cthulhu because of my curse.
How are all your favorite characters either like the size of a mouse or the size of a building or both? Like,
Because I like
there's no in
extremes.
between with you.
I like extremes. Unless it's gender, then I like androgyny.
I see.
So you enjoy. Okay.
Wheels within wheels.
You can't understand me.
I also want to thank our friend Chris Newton from the Gameable podcast, who gave us a very nicely written 5-star review on iTunes.
Yay, thank you so much.
So yeah, thanks, Chris. He labeled it less thinking, more yelling.
Yeah.
Nice.
Of course.
Nice.
He said, obviously the concept of pitting two pop culture characters against one another is a perennial favorite, but it's the execution that really makes Smash Fiction something special. The format is just the right balance between structured, formal debate and spontaneous verbal slap fighting. The hosts generally know their stuff. And
That's
I'm
fair.
sorry, generally, Chris.
That's
always.
no. He is
Occasionally.
right. He is totally right.
Occasionally.
I have no argument with that statement.
The hosts generally know their stuff and offer the pedantry that nerds crave, but also have fun and distinct personalities that breathe life into their discussions. One of my favorite podcasts for sheer fun.
Aw.
I can't know everything.
thanks,
I'm not
Chris.
the
Thanks.
watcher.
That's nice.
That's awesome, Chris. Thank you for that review, and thank you to Matt for your very kind email,
Very
which
much
we
so.
are not going to read, but which was really awesome.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, Witchblade versus Ryuko Matoi.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman, with logo design by Colin Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod for our theme song, which is called Hitman. You can find his work at www.incompetech.com.
You can follow the Smash Fiction podcast on Twitter at SmashFicPodcast and search for us on Facebook and Tumblr.
Subscribe on iTunes, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight. Make with your bizarre intro that isn't like anybody else's intro.
It's so close to what it normally is this time. I played it safe.
Oh, interesting.
Huh.
I mean,
are you?
although
Not Liz.
I did want to purposely fuck up your guys' names and say, this week, John Blow versus Katniss Everdeen.
I'm sorry. I'm surprised you didn't go with cat piss. That's
No.
so easy.
I made an obscure Archer reference.
Oh.
Pretty obscure.